Hold on to your teacups, because what I'm about to tell you is so bonkers it makes Alice in Wonderland look like a documentary. We've got a Labour minister comparing Nigel Farage to Jimmy Savile, a technology secretary who thinks doubling down is a valid political strategy, and a controversy so explosive it's got everyone from Fox News to your nan's WhatsApp group absolutely losing their minds. Welcome to UK Pancakes, where the political chaos is always fresh out the oven and served with a generous helping of what the bloody hell is going on. Right, let's dive straight into this absolute car crash, because Labour's Peter Kyle, that's Technology Secretary Peter Kyle to you peasants, has just committed what might be the most spectacular political own goal since David Cameron decided to have a little referendum about Europe. We're talking about a mistake so catastrophic it makes Liz Truss's mini-budget look like a masterclass in economic planning. Picture the scene. It's a lovely Tuesday morning. Birds are singing, and Peter Kyle decides it's the perfect time to go on LBC and essentially call Nigel Farage a supporter of child predators. Because nothing says serious political discourse like invoking the name of Britain's most notorious monster in a debate about internet regulation. Now, what could possibly have triggered this nuclear-grade political meltdown? The Online Safety Act, of course. That beautiful piece of legislation that came into effect back in July, designed to protect children from harmful online content. Sounds reasonable, right? Well, Reform UK wants to scrap it entirely, claiming it threatens freedom of speech and open debate. And this is where our story takes a turn that would make a soap opera writer weep with envy. Kyle, clearly having watched too many episodes of Question Time and thinking he's some sort of political mastermind, decides to go full nuclear. I see that Nigel Farage is already saying that he's going to overturn these laws. He announces, probably feeling very pleased with himself. But then, and this is where it gets properly mental, he adds, so you know, we have people out there who are extreme pornographers, peddling hate, peddling violence. Nigel Farage is on their side. But wait, there's more. Because clearly, Kyle thinks to himself, you know what this needs? More Jimmy Savile. So he doubles down. Make no mistake about it, if people like Jimmy Savile were alive today, he'd be perpetrating his crimes online. And Nigel Farage is saying that he's on their side. Now, I've heard some political zingers in my time who could forget coalition of chaos or strong and stable. But this is like bringing a nuclear weapon to a water-pistol fight, and then acting surprised when everyone starts running for cover. The reaction was swift and about as subtle as a brick through a stained glass window. Farage, understandably, went absolutely mental. Just how low can the Labour government sink in its desperation? He thundered, and honestly, can you blame him? The man's had his fair share of controversial moments, but being compared to Jimmy Savile is the kind of accusation that would make Gandhi consider legal action. Yes, of course they are in trouble. They are well behind us in the opinion polls, Farage continued, and is not wrong there. But frankly, to say that I would do anything that would in any way aid and abet people like Jimmy Savile, it's so below the belt it's almost not true. And this is where Kyle's master plan, if we can charitably call it that, starts to unravel faster than a cheap Christmas jumper. Because when you accuse someone of being on the side of child predators, you better have your facts straighter than a Victorian schoolmaster's ruler. The political fallout has been absolutely spectacular. Zia Yusuf, Reform's chairman, called Kyle's comment the most disgusting thing I've ever heard, which, coming from someone in politics, is really saying something. The man probably heard Priti Patel's ringtone. Nothing phases these people easily. But here's where it gets really juicy. When asked if he'd apologize to Farage, Kyle essentially told him to jog on. Nigel Farage wants to overturn that law and he wants me to apologize. Kyle shot back during another LBC appearance, clearly having learned nothing from his first verbal car crash. Well, I think he owes the country one simple explanation. If he's going to overturn the law that prevents that from happening, what is he going to replace it with? It's like watching someone pour petrol on a fire while complaining that it's getting too hot. Kyle then had the absolute audacity to suggest that Farage should be apologizing morning, noon, and night to every child and every parent in our country. The sheer brass neck on this man could probably be seen from space. Now, let's break down what's actually happening here, because beneath all this theatrical posturing lies a genuinely important debate about online safety and free speech. The Online Safety Act, which came into effect on July 25th, requires online platforms to prevent children from accessing harmful content like pornography or material encouraging suicide. On paper, it sounds brilliant. Who doesn't want to protect kids online? But Reform UK argues it goes too far, potentially stifling legitimate debate and free expression. It's the classic clash between safety and liberty, wrapped up in enough red tape to strangle a horse. The problem is, when you start throwing around comparisons to Jimmy Savile, suddenly nobody's talking about the actual policy anymore. They're just watching the political equivalent of a demolition derby. What makes Kyle's comments particularly tone-deaf is the timing. Labour's already struggling in the polls, facing criticism from multiple fronts, and the last thing they need is their own ministers going rogue with inflammatory rhetoric that makes even seasoned political observers wince. The comparison to Savile isn't just offensive, it's strategically moronic. Savile's crimes were monstrous precisely because they were hidden, protected by institutional failures and a culture of silence. To suggest that opposing internet regulation somehow puts you on the same side as child predators is not just wrong, it's dangerously simplistic. But Kyle's not backing down. He's doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down on his comments, apparently operating under the political theory that if you're in a hole, the best strategy is to keep digging until you reach Australia. When pressed on his refusal to apologize, he essentially said Farage should be grateful he's not demanding more apologies. The broader implications here are staggering. We're witnessing a government minister essentially saying that anyone who disagrees with their internet regulation is a supporter of child abuse. It's the kind of argument that would get you laughed out of a first-year philosophy class, but apparently it passes for serious political discourse in 2025. What's particularly fascinating is how this controversy reveals a desperation creeping into Labour's messaging. When you're resorting to comparing your political opponents to one of history's most notorious predators over a policy disagreement, you've essentially admitted you've run out of actual arguments. The Online Safety Act debate deserves serious discussion about the balance between protecting children and preserving free expression online. Instead, we get Peter Kyle's greatest hits collection, featuring such classics as Everyone Who Disagrees With Me Supports Predators and Why Apologizing Is for Losers. Reform UK, meanwhile, is probably sending Kyle a thank you card every morning. Nothing boosts your political fortunes quite like being unfairly smeared by a government minister who's clearly lost the plot. They couldn't have asked for better publicity if they'd hired a team of advertising geniuses. The media reaction has been predictably explosive. Even outlets that aren't exactly known for their Reform UK sympathies have called Kyle's comment egregious and offensive to Savile's victims. When you've managed to unite the British press in criticism, you've achieved something truly special, just not in the way you intended. What's most remarkable is Kyle's apparent belief that this is all going according to plan. He seems genuinely convinced that calling Farage a Savile sympathizer is brilliant political strategy rather than career suicide served with a side of public humiliation. The whole fiasco perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with modern political discourse. Instead of having a grown-up conversation about internet regulation, we get inflammatory rhetoric designed to generate headlines rather than solutions. Kyle's turned what should be a nuanced policy debate into a circus where he's somehow managed to make himself the clown. And the best part? Kyle still thinks he's winning. He's out there on radio shows, doubling down on his comments like he's discovered some sort of political cheat code. It's like watching someone play chess by eating the pieces and declaring victory. So there you have it. Peter Kyle's masterclass in how to turn a policy disagreement into a national scandal while simultaneously destroying your own credibility and making your political opponents look reasonable by comparison. It's almost artistic in its incompetence. Thanks for watching UK Pancakes, where we serve up the political chaos fresh from the Westminster kitchen, and the ingredients never stop being absolutely mental. If this story has left you as baffled as a tourist trying to understand the offside rule, smash that like button, subscribe for more political pandemonium, and let me know in the comments whether you think Kyle's comments were politically suicidal or just regular suicidal.